I just get the feeling that the next 20 minutes or so are going to be fairly explosive. I guess, whenever we debate The Voice, whenever we even talk about The Voice in whatever manner, the debate, the conversation borders on the explosive anyway. But Sam Newman, who's a staunch no advocate, has taken this debate to a whole new level. This is part of what Sam had to say on his podcast with Don Scott. Now, the podcast is called You Cannot Be Serious, and this is what was dropped online yesterday.
What about this? So the next time you go to a public event like the grand final or a football game or any public event in an auditorium and they trot out the welcome to country, start booing.
Why?
Or slow hand clapping.
No, why?
Because we don't want to put up with it. We are not going to be patronised.
No, that's being rude.
Okay, so that was Sam Newman on his latest podcast, You Cannot Be Serious. Sam joins us in the studio this morning. Sam, first of all, thanks for coming in. Secondly, to quote the title of your show, You Cannot Be Serious.
That's the name of the podcast we do, and you'd be amazed at how many topics we talk about on You Cannot Be Serious make the news. I wonder why that is. I wonder why I'm in here at the minute, Tony.
Well, we asked you to come on.
Well, I appreciate it.
And we asked you to actually come on the phone, and you said, no, I'd rather come in the studio.
Yes.
Which I guess is a way of making sure.
No, I like to look at the person I'm speaking to. I always like to do that.
Right.
But it's more intimate.
Do you feel as though by calling on fans to boo Welcome to Country at the grand final, or at the very least slow hand clap, is not inciting violence, basically?
What an extraordinary question.
What's the answer?
The answer is the public have had a gutful of people telling us how to live our lives, particularly footballing organisations. We like to go to the football and watch the game without being told to vote for the gay marriage proposal, which is fine, without being told to vote for The Voice. I know they've retracted the AFL have retracted their direction to vote yes for The Voice. Why do they get involved? So I'll tell you, it is an absolute hoax. It's a rort, the welcome to country. Why do we have to be welcome to the country we live in? Why is that? Why it is just a mark of division. The people who welcome you to country get a nice stipend out of it. Why do they charge to have it? It's just a rort.
But is that any reason to boo?
Well, okay, so you get on one of our aeroplanes and someone has defaced it. The Irish immigrant who came out here and...
Yeah. You're talking about Qantas having
I'm
yes
talking about
on it.
Mr.
Yeah.
Joyce. Well,
Yeah.
who decided he could deface our planes by putting yes on it? Who decides that we have a national campaign by the government to say yes? It's a plebiscite. Why don't you leave the public alone to make a decision about how they'd like to have this country governed? Okay,
one of the real issues when we talk about, as I said in the introduction, is that we're struggling to actually have a civil debate about this, right? And the sooner October 14 is done and dusted, the better,
Yes.
okay? And whatever the vote is, we abide by the umpire's decision. We are the umpire. But don't you think you've taken it to a new low, the conversation, by asking people almost, and your voice can be one of influence, Sam.
Hopefully.
And your podcast has a large audience, and it can be very, very divisive, but it can also be very influential. So do you not feel as though that you're being irresponsible by getting people to boo what is,
Totally.
and you can argue that it's unnecessary for every game. You can argue that it's
unnecessary
wrong.
for any. My statement on the podcast was a provocative suggestion that people push back on this nonsense. It's cringeworthy to have to watch. Did you watch the grand final last year? There were 3 separate occasions when we recognised Indigenous Australia, and could I tell you, besides the obvious people that spring to mind who are in my immediate circle, the man I respected most on this planet for his spiritual, intellectual and physical presence and guided me through life was an Indigenous man who I played football with, Graham Vivian Farmer. So this has nothing to do with skin colour. This is just this country getting together and not being divided, not being pushed and pulled by people who tell you what you should think and when you should think it.
Okay, this is the tribute you paid to Polly Farmer 4 years ago.
I had great affection for him. I revered him. I know this sounds a bit hokey, but he was my great inspiration in my football life and almost my life. I didn't know you were going to play that, so I probably preempted that, but at least I'm consistent.
Yeah, you are. So what do you think Polly would think about you advocating that he boos his, booing his brothers?
What a great question. So I played with and was a great friend of Graham Farmer's and played with him and got on very well with him. Mm-hmm. He was not into any of this. I can tell you, when I knew him and all the people at Geelong knew him and all his teammates, he was a marvellous man. I never heard any racial reference to Graham Farmer. In fact, you name a player, Tony Jones, name a player you think who is Indigenous that has been booed on the football field because of his race. You won't name one.
Well, there would be plenty of people listening at the moment who would say Adam Goods.
No, but Adam Goods. I'm so glad you said that, Adam. This is how this thing gets out of control. Adam Goods was booed because he pretended to throw a spear at the Carlton cheer squad after the Swans were beating them by 10 goals up to half-time, and wondered why people get booed on the football field, not because of their skin colour, but because of things they do. I know that. Everyone knows that. And then the AFL waded into this. The hapless Gil McLachlan waded into this and said, please don't boo Adam Goods. That's like red rag to a bull. So I am saying to you, and then this podcast that we did, this is how these things get taken to the next level. The podcast that I did with Michael Sheehan, Don Scott and myself, and we had a discussion as to why the media go to Nicky Winmar when Black Lives Matters, BLM matters come up. And then Don Scott said, was it misreported about why Nicky Winmar lifted his jumper up out at Collingwood? Because it was the 30th anniversary of it happening. Yep. Just listen to this, because this is why I'm invested in this, because this has really got up my nose, this. So Mike Sheehan said the only person who'd know what Nicky Winmar meant when he lifted his jumper up is Nicky Winmar. And we said, yes, we agree with that. But we said the very great majority, I wasn't at the game, incidentally, the very great majority of the people who were at the game thought it wasn't about that. It was about something about his weight, being overweight. We discussed that. And we got charged with vilification for daring to discuss a very, very public matter. And do you know who instigated it?
Who?
Gil McLachlan and his little lawyer friend. Okay. They took us to the cleaners and charged us and fined us $100,000. And you wonder why we get thrown under the bus just to appease McLachlan's whiteness. I don't know what he did it for, but he should be ashamed of himself.
Are you a racist?
Now, that's what I'm very
I think that there would be people listening to this at the moment with an open mind that would want me to ask that question.
I'm very glad you did. Now, you tell me what you think a racist is, besides saying me.
Give
us your definition of racism.
I haven't said you're a racist. I
don't mind what you say to me.
No,
tell me what you say. What is your definition of racism?
I would define a racist as someone with a prejudice against a different coloured skin.
Is that what you'd say that a racism is?
And someone who vilifies.
Vilifies?
Yeah. Well, will you tell me,
who have
Sam?
I vilified?
Well, I'm asking you, Sam. I'm asking you the question.
Well, I don't think you know what racism is.
But you haven't answered the question.
Well, racism is about hate primarily. Yeah. And it's if you defile, decry or degrade someone, think you're superior than them or try and dominate them.
Which is a very broad sort of
it's the most overworked word in the English lexicon at the minute. As soon as you talk about anyone from another country, oh, you're racist. You tell me why what I've said and what I've done is anything to do with racism.
Well, if you're advocating booing...
I'm advocating people take a stand at this nonsense that's gone on. It's a hoax. It's absolute nonsense that we have people come out onto the ground, welcome us to the country that we live in. When settlement came in the mid-1770s, that's how this country started, let's be honest.
Are you going to the grand final?
Well, I'm not going to the grand final, but that doesn't matter. I haven't been to any of the grand finals.
No, but you're a life member and you're entitled. But
of course I am.
If you went to the grand final, would you boo?
It was a provocative, tongue-in-cheek.
Tongue-in-cheek?
tongue-in-cheek, Tony. It was a provocative, tongue-in-cheek request for people to stop pandering and being virtuous by thinking you have to come out, light sticks, burn incense, do whatever you do, be browbeaten by auntie or uncle, whoever they are. Could we just live under the one flag? Could we live under the one country? Could we all unite? The great Lionel Rose, when he won his world title back in the 60s, was asked, did he do this for the Aboriginals? He said, I don't go in for this black and white stuff. I did it for Australia. Why can he say that and why can't we adopt that?
Okay, so getting back to the question, if you went to the grand final, would you boo?
Yes.
You would?
Well,
you just said it was tongue-in-cheek.
Well, hang on, mate. If I said no, you'd say, well, why did you say it?
Well, no, because you've said it's tongue-in-cheek, which begs
I might
the
give
question...
a slow hand clap. I think that was the alternative, wasn't it? Boo or slow hand clap.
So,
no, I've had,
but you are you not retreating, but are you now sort of saying, okay, well, don't do that?
Not at all, mate. I'm not retreating from anything I say. I'll tell you this, Tony. Why I'm in here, I presume, is because not you, but people resonate. You think that we resonate with a hell of a lot of people that agree with what we say, and this will be proven when the vote comes up, the yes/no vote.
Absolutely,
this will be proven when the no vote gets up, because it's not necessary to have it. It is just a grab by the social elites for more money. But it is a grab for money.
But Sam, you are such a staunch supporter of the no vote that you've now got your own merchandise.
We have a cap.
With no on it.
That's correct.
Yeah. So,
well, hang on.
No, but hang on. Let me finish the question.
Well, why do I have to get on an aeroplane that Mr. Joyce decides to graffiti by putting yes on it? Why can't I have a hat that that's my opinion, that I have no on it?
I'm just illustrating how...
If you want to buy a hat, you can buy it from michaelchristianmenswear.com for $39.95, and it's got no on it.
Okay, well, that's the other part of the question now. I would be concerned if I was Michael Christian Menswear that there's going to be backlash as a result of that.
How will you be inundated?
I don't doubt that. We might put a call through to him. But do you think that because your stance has sort of gone to this whole new level whereby you're inciting... Violence isn't the right word, but hang on. Just let me finish the question, Sam. So are you worried that you're actually counterproductive to your own cause here at the moment, where if you've got people who are almost borderline, sort of maybe swaying towards the no, do you think they're now listening to this saying, you know what, I'm going to go yes?
So if Alan Joyce can deface our airlines by putting yes on it, the national government can run a campaign and get John Farnham's song, The Voice, to come on to sway us in a plebiscite that we should make our own mind up. What is wrong with me saying, vote no, and please don't put up with this welcome to country. It is bogus. It's nonsense. It came from Ernie Dingo's parody at the end of the last century, who... tongue-in-cheek, Tony said, welcome to my country, and people jumped onto this and they thought, here's a money spinner, and it is cringeworthy, and everywhere you go now, people just roll their eyes up and no one's game to say it. Could we all just be one united country?
Absolutely.
Well, and this is the best way, is to stop dividing people by having to sit through all these parades and ceremonies.
Yeah, I know, but Sam, this is where I think it's counterproductive. And look, we've known each other a long time. We get on very, very well. I think we're
getting on well.
Yeah, at the moment.
Just don't test us. No, Tony,
but I'm saying I agree. Everyone is entitled to an opinion.
Good.
Everyone
That's
is entitled.
my opinion, and we give it.
I know, but
you cannot
I
be
still
serious.
think. Yeah, I know that, but I still think there are boundaries, and I think on this occasion you've definitely crossed the line.
But we'll say that's your opinion. You know what an opinion is? It can't be right or wrong, and it's an opinion. And I'll tell you what, I have no problem with people disagreeing with what I say. I just know the majority of people have this opinion that we should be allowed to do. And why do you go to the football? Why do you go to the football? To be paraded with a whole lot of nonsensical stuff that is irrelevant to the game. People want to go away and get away from all this sort of stuff, and we are dividing the country, Tony.
All right.
Can I tell you one more thing?
Yeah.
I'll bet you, even if you agreed with even if you agreed with me, wouldn't be game to say so, because your employers would not want you to say that, and you would risk being cancelled or sanctioned for you backing me.
I've never, in the 38 years I've been at Channel 9, been told what to say.
No, I didn't say...
In the 7 or 8 years I've been filling in for Neil, I've never been told what to say.
I didn't say that, Tony.
No,
Tony, I didn't say that.
No, and you know me well enough to know that I wouldn't be bridled.
I didn't say that, Tony.
No. But are you worried about being cancelled? Are you worried about your podcast?
Cancelled from what?
Spotify?
It's cancelled from Spotify. What is this? Is this not the First Amendment?
No, but if you look at the cancel culture, which you're concerned about being.
No, I'm not concerned about being cancelled. I couldn't give a stuff if we do the podcast or not. We don't make any money out of it. We just do it because it gives us a voice. It gives us a voice. It gives us. I'll tell you what. The overwhelming amount of people. We probably have more listeners than most of the radio stations that you compete against.
How many listeners do you have?
We have about 70,000 a week. Now, I don't know how that goes in. I'll tell you what, we do pretty well, and we make nothing out of it. We make nothing out of it. But I welcome the opportunity to come on here and tell you that it's bogus, it's a hoax, and the sooner we get rid of all this nonsense and just be one united country, the better.
Sam, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Tony.